Excellent. Well, thank you both. So we're going to now transition. I know we have a lot of students who are watching today, and some of them are brave enough to raise their hand and want to ask a question. So the first question we have is from Reagan Kim. So we're going to pull Reagan up, and I hope we got your name right. And if you could introduce yourself and bring, go ahead and turn on your camera there, Reina, and feel free to ask your question.
Hello, sir. My name is Reagan Kim. I am from Academy of the Canyons. Not quite sure if there's a video option on the bottom, but I'm from, yes, like I said, Academy of the Canyons. It's a pleasure to meet you, an honor to meet you, sir. And I just had a question, sir, about basically during a time of crisis, how do you basically maintain a cool? I know, like, especially during a problem under the scene, when your plan doesn't survive first contact, there might be panic, there might be everything that's like going wrong that's happening, but how do you basically maintain your calm and solve the problem that's just happened right there and then?
Yeah, great question. Maybe we'll throw this one to Matt first. I saw in an interview you said your heartbeat never gets above 50 beats per minute, so maybe you can talk about how you remain so cool.
No, I appreciate the question. I think that's a great question. And the first thing that comes to mind when you staying cool under pressure, if you will, for us in the military, specifically in special forces, we harp on contingencies, and having a plan when the plan goes wrong is key. The other thing is like I said, it's focus on what's going on, right? Focus on things that you can control, and then start knocking those things out, checking that box, start making those things happen. Because when you find yourself in a crisis situation, whether it's in contact with the enemy or something else, there's certain parts of that stuff that you're not going to be able to control. So don't worry about it. Let it go. It is what it is. It's fine. Adapt, move on, focus on things that you can control. So from a military perspective, in a form of combat, I'll kind of talk about that. It's, maneuver your forces, make sure that you gain the upper hand, do what you've been trained to do, rely on your training, rely on your education for that matter. And start just solving problems. That's what it all comes down to.
Excellent. Jack, any thoughts on that one?
No, I couldn't improve on that. Nothing makes you calmer than recognizing that you've been well trained and that you're among friends. That gets you through a great deal.
Excellent. Yeah, maybe we'll kind of switch back and forth to get as many students through as possible. I know our next student is from High Desert Middle School, Alecko Zorba. Alecko, welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure and honor to speak to both of you Medal of Honor recipients. My question has to be, was there anything growing up as a kid that you were taught or that you learned that led you to that moment to make that decision? Was it a person, experience, your upbringing, or was it just inside you at that moment? And was this a subconscious thing, or was it a conscious decision to help save your platoon?
So maybe Jack, we'll go with you on that one. So the question, just to kind of restate it, was there anything from your upbringing that led you to the calm and the cool and the bravery that you had in the moment for which you were recognized with the medal?
Oh, well, I remember an incident when I was younger. I was still in the projects in New York, and I had to make a decision about whether to do the right thing or what turned out to be not the right thing, or something less right. It wasn't the difference between right and wrong. It was a question of whether or not I was going to have the moral courage to do the right thing. I think that's the best way to say it. And my father told me something that has stuck with me since then about this. I grew up in a Jewish household, and he quoted the first century Hebrew scholar Hillel, who, when asked for advice in a similar situation, told the person who asked him for advice, "If not you, who? And if not now, when?" I mean, if you're not going to do it, who's going to do it? If you're not going to do the right thing, if you're not going to have the moral courage to do the right thing, who's going to do it? And if everybody thinks like somebody else will do it, then nobody will do it. And that stuck with me for a long, long time.
That's great. Thank you. Our next question comes from Juliana Perez from High Desert Middle School as well.
Hi, I'm Juliana Perez. It's a pleasure to meet you guys. But my question was, what was going through your head when you received the Medal of Honor?
Excellent question, Juliana. Maybe Matt, start with you. When you, I guess there's two different, when you first learn that you receive it, but also when you actually receive it from the president, probably all sorts of thoughts going through your head.
Yeah, no, great question. And I'll kind of try to keep it brief, but when I first got the phone call, I was shocked and overwhelmed. I was actually awarded the Silver Star for this, back in 2008, and I received a phone call in September 2018. So literally, 10 years later, this kind of all gets brought up again, and really the first thing I kind of thought was, why me? All I did was my job that day. Look, there's 10 other guys awarded the Silver Star, and a Air Force, one of our Air Force team members was awarded the Air Force Cross. So, there's by no means was I the only one that did anything, worth talking about that day. There's tons of others, and that's kind of the first thing that came through my head. But standing on the stage and receiving the award from the president and kind of looking out there, it's the most humbling experience that I think you could ever imagine, because you're literally when they strap the medal around your neck, you're immediately brought into a fraternity of some of the greatest human beings that the United States of America has ever produced. It's an amazing opportunity, and even like just right now, having the opportunity to sit here and listen to Jack Jacobs talk is still a privilege for me, and it's an honor for me. And I think about that every time I put this thing on.
Excellent. And Jack, how about you? What was it? Was it like to learn that you were going to receive the medal and then receive it?
Well, like with Matt, it was a tremendous surprise, shock to me. It was about a year and a half after the event, and my first reaction was a notion that was actually articulated by a number of Medal of Honor recipients since then, who said there were, and Matt said it today too. There were many brave people on that day. And so it was a shock to me. The biggest shock at the White House, however, and I remember very little of the actual ceremony, was actually being at the White House. And the ceremony was held on a very clear day, on the 9th of October, 1969. They had erected a platform outside in the Rose Garden. We mounted the platform, and my enduring memory is that there were people as far as you could see. They had opened up the White House grounds to everybody who wanted to come on the White House grounds and watch the ceremony. Government workers, tourists, passersby, anybody who wanted to come on and watch it could come onto the White House grounds and watch the ceremony. And there were people as far as you could see. And that was the thing that shocked me the most about the entire thing. Times have changed now. I don't even think you could drive down Pennsylvania Avenue anymore. But that's what's burned into my memory is this sight of people as far as you can see.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you for sharing those. Our next student is Chaz Kendall from High Desert Middle School.
Hi, my question is, do you guys both regret or think you would do anything differently if you were in the same situation?
Start with Matt on this one. Anything you would do differently or any regrets you have from that day?
It's something I play back in my head all the time. And regrets. I don't think I have any regrets. I think there's always things I think about that I should have done this faster, should have done that better, and all that stuff. But ultimately, I don't. It's not something I try to dwell on. I use it as a learning experience, and I continue to use every operation I've ever been on. Everything that the things that went right, the things that went poorly. I take it as an opportunity to sit down, be honest with myself, and use them as things to drive me to become better. Is really the gist of it. So regrets, not really. Is there ways I could have done better and should have done better? I think so. Hindsight's 20/20, right? But what I have done is make sure that I take those lessons and continue to use them to grow and be better.
Jack, how about you?
No, I quite agree. I don't think you can improve on that. That's the best advice you can give anybody.
Excellent. All right. Our next student is Lena Fox.
Hello. Thank you for coming and speaking with us today. And my question was what were you thinking while you were getting wounded and while you were fighting?
Jack, we'll let you start with that one.
Well, it's kind of interesting. I haven't thought about it in a long time, but your first reaction is disbelief. I mean, you're not going to get wounded. You're not going to get hurt. Nothing bad is going to happen to you. It's going to happen to somebody else. And so your first reaction is that it's not actually happening. We walked into an enormous ambush, which itself is a surprise, and mostly because we made a tactical error. But the first reaction is disbelief. And then you realize that it really is happening. And then you realize that you're probably going to die. And it's amazing as you sort of go up or down the ladder in these emotions, you get calmer and calmer and calmer, and you focus more and more on what needs to get done. You're reminded that you're around your friends, your comrades, who are all going to die unless something is done. And you realize that if the situation were reversed, if they were wounded and you were even more badly wounded, that they wouldn't hesitate to take care of you too. And it has a salutary effect. It makes you stronger, realizing that you're among people who would take care of you too. But you go from disbelief to almost fatalism, but it gives you strength. And by the way, somebody once asked me about fear. I don't know if somebody's going to ask about fear. Were you scared? Yes, I was terribly scared. But fear doesn't paralyze you. It actually strengthens you. It makes you realize that you have to do something, and it makes you stronger.
Excellent, thank you. All right, I think we have time for maybe one more question from a student. So we're going to bring on Brandon Vasquez, also from High Desert Middle School.
Hello, thank you for having me today. One thing that I wanted to know was, what drives you to keep on going in combat when something starts to get challenging or hard?
Matt, you want to take that one first?
Absolutely. It's kind of like Jack just talked about it. What drives you is the guys that you're there with. And I mentioned that earlier. We all decided to serve for whatever reason, whatever drove us to do it. But what keeps you alive on the battlefield and what keeps you fighting and moving forward is the guys that are with you, the guys and girls that you're surrounded with, that you've invested, your blood, sweat, and tears with, to get you there that day. And knowing full well and having that trust in them and the trust in your team that they're going to do the same for you. If it had been me laying there on the mountain, shot up, somebody would have come and got me, no questions asked. And that's kind of what keeps you going. It's not even a thought process at that point. We all have our objectives, we all have our missions to do, but they all are underlined by the fact that we're there for each other, period. And that's the camaraderie and the something that you can't feel outside the military. It's one reason I think the military is such a great opportunity for everybody to experience at some point in their life. You'll never see anything else like it.
Excellent, thank you. Well, we have just about a minute left, so I wanted to give each of you just a chance for any final words you might have to the students or the audience that's viewing today. We'll go to Jack first on that one.
Well, I think one thing to keep in mind when you're very young is that time is an expendable quantity. When you're really young, things go really slowly. And it looks like there's an infinite number of days disappearing over the horizon. And then when you get older, you realize that every day is a larger and larger percentage of what you have left. Nobody lies on his deathbed saying, I really should have wasted more time. Take advantage of every minute you have, and then you'll be able to accomplish all the things you want to.
Thank you. Matt, how about you?
Yeah, I think that's spot on. If I could kind of go back in time, what advice for young people? Our future is in your hands. It's up to you all to kind of carry the torch forward. You've got a great country here. You're surrounded by amazing people and opportunity, and take advantage of it. Use the time you're given to do something great, to be a part of something great, and we'll all be successful.
Well, on behalf of the Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation and Institute, I just want to thank both of you, Colonel Jacobs and Sergeant Major Williams, for your time today, for being willing to share your stories. I want to thank our partners at the Congressional Medal of Honor Society for their fantastic partnership over the past decade plus. I want to thank the students who tuned in today and asked such brilliant and thoughtful questions. President Reagan, in addressing the Medal of Honor Society back in the 1980s, said that freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. It must be preserved and passed on from one generation to the next. And I, in particular, want to thank the two of you for all you've done through your military service to preserve freedom, and then the work you're doing through the character development program and working with students to pass it on from one generation to the next. You're truly doing above and beyond your part. So thank you both so much for being here today.